Man, it's a good week. It's a good week to be a Baylor Bear. Max Muncy, another World Series ring for arguably the greatest professional baseball player Baylor's ever produced. Hit a big home run in that game last night. That guy is clutch. VJ Edgecombe, the now betting favorite for Rookie of the Year in the NBA. Our own. We love you, VJ. Sorry that we put a bad team around you last year. He's killing it for the Sixers. Man, basketball season starts tomorrow. UT Rio Grande Valley, right? I think is who's coming to town tomorrow for Baylor basketball. That'll be fun. Let's go. Scott Drew's squad. Nikki Collins' squad, I think, is playing in Paris tomorrow. But the story of this show, homecoming was this weekend. Great time. I got to take my daughter to 3rd Street on campus Friday night for some Halloween festivities going on. Some students were doing some activities for the kiddos. So my little ladybug and I were wandering around. That was a good time. And then yesterday, lo and behold, Terrence Ganaway out of the blue. As if coming out of thin air, Baylor has a freaking defense and holds a Big 12 conference opponent to 3 points for the first time since 2006 in a dominant 30-3 victory, sending UCF packing out of Waco. That game was over in the first quarter. Terrence Ganaway joining me as always. It's a good day to be a Baylor Bear, bro.
Scotty, you got to update that graphic of how many teams we've beat at home since 2021 or whatever. Listen, it was an impressive win. They did exactly what they should have done against a team like UCF. I think as much as yesterday inspired us, it just shows you how much more meat is still on the bone. And we're holding our tray and we're walking over to the trash can, ready to dump it all in. And you're like, well, maybe I should sit down and think on it a little bit longer. But gosh, man, the team played sharp. Both sides of the ball gave up 75 yards rushing and just 150 yards. So 225 total offensive yards for UCF. They led the Big 12 in pass defense. Sawyer had his way. Michael Trigg had his way. I mean, we had so many people involved. And I think when you watch a game like yesterday, you almost want to turn it off. You're so frustrated that, like, why couldn't we just do this all the time?
Yeah.
Because if Baylor plays like they played yesterday, I mean, instead of being 5-4, we're probably 8-1, and I say that confidently. Both sides of the ball ran to the ball. They hustled. Offensive line did a really good job of protecting, and we went out there and we handled business from start to finish. I think it was the most complete game that I've seen in Aranda's tenure. Definitely this year, maybe in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know that it tops a couple of those games last year in that 6-game winning streak. But I mean, it looked like a different team than we've seen all season in 2025 for sure. I mean, you pointed out the offensive line got a lot of push up front. Caden Knighton has a career day, looks really good running behind that best line performance of the year. Got to give a shout out to him. Defense, man, I don't know what clicked, and Dave even talked about it a little bit post game that, like, okay, they finally just played free and ran to the ball, which is like, thank God. I mean, a little late in the season to figure that out, but dadgummit, dude, it looked like a different team. DJ Coleman forces a turnover. Jacob Redding gets another interception. You win the turnover battle. Was that the first time? I mean, maybe Samford was the only other time we've won a turnover battle in a game this season, I think. And even that, I think we had 3 turnovers against Samford. So probably our best game from that perspective. Terrence, it is kind of hard to think, is this who this team really is? Or was this the anomaly? Like, do we trust the the 8 games prior, and game 9 here was the weird one.
Yeah, listen, I think this is the ceiling of this team for sure. Is to play a game like they played yesterday. But this team is riddled with a ton of inconsistency, starting with the defense. The defense has been spotty all year long, and offense has gone through a slump. Even though they've been semi-productive, they haven't been as good as they could have been against TCU and Cincy. And yesterday, they were super efficient. I think we got our first punt late in the second quarter. Like, there were things that we were able to do offensively, and it felt good to not feel like we had to go for fourth downs early, and we settled for field goals, which we missed one. But like, getting those reps are critical to building a championship team, and I do think that this team has a ton of potential. I tell you all the time, Buddy Ray, DeKalb, Texas. It was probably 2002. And he comes in our 7th grade locker room. He said this team has a lot of potential, but potential will get you fired. And right now, it looks like it could be the case for Dave Aranda. Now, if he goes on to win these next 3 games, that's a new point. But I would think that next year the expectations are still going to be high, and there needs to be a lot more consistency. But yes, let's celebrate the win. Let's enjoy the bye week. Let's get people back healthy. And let's figure out how to attack Utah. And if we can do that and get a win, I think it gives this team a ton of confidence to finish out the year against Arizona, who's beatable. And then we saw what West Virginia did to University of Houston yesterday. I don't think they'll put together a performance like they did yesterday at home against West Virginia, but it makes them beatable. And sometimes you only have to show the guy can lead. And so let's take this one in. I'm not cashing all my chips in just yet, Scotty, but it's confident to double down on a couple of cards if I like them.
Yeah, and there's 2 narratives coming out of this game, Terrence, that I would love for you to address. I'm curious of your feelings about this. One of the narratives, and I've seen a couple comments come in. By the way, thank you so much if you're watching on YouTube. We love the live chat. Can't engage everybody all the time, but love to engage you guys when we can. One narrative I'm seeing multiple comments about is kind of comes down to this. Let's be honest, UCF is trash, right? And I've seen multiple people on X and places say this over the last few days of like, well, this is more UCF bad than Baylor good. The other narrative I've seen, Terrence, and I do think there's something to this. I don't know how I'd grade UCF. They did have the second best defense statistically Baylor's played to this point, and we looked good against them. So I don't want to. I don't know that UCF's trash. They may be the worst Big 12 team we've played. I don't know if they're trash. The other narrative, though, that I think there is some truth to, Wilmore 11 commented this, and I think this has been the problem with both Baylor's second half comebacks this season, as well as what happened last year with the 6-game winning streak and what just happened yesterday. Dave isn't capable of winning unless his back is against the wall, so it seems. Will, I don't quite understand how that anomaly works, but I certainly think you're not crazy for that. There seems to be some evidence for that. Terrence, what do you say to either of those narratives?
I think it's some truth. I mean, you and I were chatting up before we jumped on, and UCF is not a good football team. Now, did Baylor do exactly what they needed to do against a team like that? Absolutely. They shut down the run. They defended the ball well in the pass game. They were able to run, keep plays, keep drives going. Sawyer was super efficient. They protected the quarterback. So when you think about a game and a team, we did exactly what we needed to do against a UCF type team who's still trying to figure out a lot of things. We kind of wish we would have played that same way against Oklahoma State after firing Mike Gundy. So there's the consistency that I can see that, yes, UCF is trash or they're not a really good team this year, but Baylor did exactly what they should have done against a really not a good team. The second narrative of back against the wall, and I think this is key. There's a persona that you have as a head coach that your team feeds off of. And one of the things that drives me crazy about Kirby Smart is he always feels like his back is against the wall. I mean, he wins a national championship. He goes to the championship the next year and wins it. And he starts off like, everyone doubted us. No one thought we could do it. Everyone was out to get us. And the fact that you have that mindset and have such an elite program to back it up is very unique. And I don't know what the dynamics, how they shift in the locker room when it's a must win against UCF. I think it's safe to say if we lost against UCF, knowing how bad that team was yesterday, if we lost against UCF, it's safe to say we probably come on this conversation with the interim head coach at Baylor right now. But since they did win, now we got to figure out what is the next 3 games going to look like. What's the next month of football going to look like? And when you think about Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, Dan Lanning, they are really good at getting their teams up for everyone. And another guy we probably don't talk about as much is Kurt Cinetti in Indiana. What they're doing, and they are leaving no doubt. They're not making games close. They're trying to defeat people, beat the will out of them. And I think when you do that, you instill a level of confidence and grit. And, hey, no one is going to score on us. No one's going to beat us at our home. You get this super confident team that can go out there and do exactly what they did yesterday, but against better opponents. I mean, we thought Auburn was a good team. Everyone's calling for Hugh Freeze to get out of there now.
Well, he is. He got fired today.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. He got fired today.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So Hugh Freeze is out. And Maryland, you mentioned Indiana earlier. Indiana put such a beat down on Maryland. They just fired their head coach, and he was the most successful head coach there in a long time.
Was that the guy that was at Penn State? Maryland's head coach, Greg Schiano?
I don't remember. I just saw that he got fired.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is...
But yeah, Hugh Freeze got fired.
I don't, which is crazy. I mean, everyone thought they were going to be a lot better team. What I'm saying is, Scotty, is when you think about some of the greatest teams that we've watched and their attitudes for big games and what they feel like is going to happen, like they show up in big ways and they're prepared. And sometimes the wins are not pretty, they're ugly. Like Georgia just won an ugly game against Florida yesterday, but they won, and that's the name of the game, winning in advance. But I don't know what the dynamic is in the locker room after or this week. Is Aranda going around telling people like, hey, like, this is do or die? Is his attitude different? Is his vibe different? I don't know that. But I can tell you by watching the game, and I think it's fair to say that everyone else seen it too, there's a little bit more pep in the step of Baylor football in all 3 phases of the game. So maybe he knew his back was against the wall. Maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. But what we saw yesterday was a football team that felt and played a little fearless and free.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually wondered this, and I see somebody commenting here, Dave getting booed by the entire homecoming pep rally seemed to light a fire under the team's behinds. And I do want to say that, Terrence. Baylor Nation was pretty unified last Sunday, and throughout the week, feeling like it was time for a change. And we talked about on this show, every show I was on at Rogue Media this week, it came up at some point, okay? And I think it was really unfortunate and probably not the best moment for Dave to get booed at homecoming at the bonfire. But this team, Terrence, I'm not convinced he's a good coach. but they love him, man. The team, you can't deny. I think the guys in the program love him and play for him. I do. Even though I would argue and have argued he has not had them prepared to play adequately for most games this season.
Yeah, and that's just how things are, Scotty. When you have a coach, like you run through the wall for your coach, that doesn't make him good or bad.
Right.
I'm sure Dave Bliss had a lot of people that were big fans of him. Kevin Steele probably had a lot of people big fans of him. What was the strength coach before Coach Kaz? I think a lot of people, Big John or something. But a lot of people liked him. A lot of people. Yeah, and there's probably more people that like Aranda on the team than Georgia, like some of the players at Georgia like Kirby Smart, or some of the players at Alabama like Nick Saban. You know, I've been in locker rooms and at pro days and scout and talked to some of those guys, and they're like, man, we hated it. But when you think about what that coach did for them, I mean, it's still paying dividends for a lot of those guys years later. I mean, just think about how successful some of those guys at Georgia has been on the defensive side of the ball. And it just helps when you have a hard coach that believes in you and pushes you to new levels. I always tell my kids, like, once the coach stops coaching you or anyone stops coaching you, like, you should just quit whatever you're doing, because they honestly don't believe or think you can do it anymore. And so you want to be coached hard. You want to be pushed. You don't want anyone to take it easy on you, because it's not worth it. I do it every year. I'm about to start basketball with my kids. I push our kids. I call parents before I talk to them. I say, hey, this is kind of how I do it. I would love to figure out how your son or daughter likes to be coached, so I can help navigate some of that. But at the end of the day, like, there's a standard that I want to compete at, and I want you to learn to compete at. And if you learn to do hard things over and over again, like, you become better at it. You become some of the best to do it. And so that's what I want Aranda and team to understand is, I don't want just a coach to be liked. I mean, I did Coach Roof. He was a strength coach at Baylor when I was there. I mean, I couldn't stand Coach Roof, and he knows you. And he's still at Baylor, and he knows that. And I think he felt that. I talk to Coach Roof every single day now, every single day, and it was just a different relationship. He pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and I think a lot of the success I had was under him. I thought, from a personality standpoint, I should have been with his group. But I was with his group, and we worked hard. And if I didn't do anything right, Coach Cos was in on it. And I'm like, man, like, can we, like, what is going on? But I think I had a decent career at Baylor, and I think I left my mark on the program in terms of how we worked, how we went about our business. But yes, I'm sure there's players that like Aranda. And if him getting booed is all he needs to go win a game, so let's get 55,000 booing before the kickoff against Utah, and let's go out there and smack them, because what they did to Cincinnati last night doesn't look promising,
buddy.
What they could do to us in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be really interesting, Terrence, is, you got this bye, and then you got Utah. Now, Dave Aranda traditionally has been great off a bye, but we looked real bad against TCU off a bye just a few weeks ago. Utah just whooped Cincinnati. Utah looks like they are peaking and kind of finding their stride as a team. That's a scary, scary team. They've got the number 1 O-line in the country, according to PFF, coming to Waco in 2 weeks. You got to prepare for that. I don't anticipate, a comfy win against UCF does not make me feel good about beating Utah. But as you pointed out earlier, Arizona, despite being on the road, that's a very beatable team if you play your best. And then Houston, who last week, I look like an idiot now, because I was last week going on all our shows I was going, Houston's got a path, man. They've got a path. They're looking sharp. They're 7-1. And then the wheels fell off against West Virginia yesterday. I don't know. I don't know what happens in Houston
But
yesterday.
they really still own their destiny, though. The only thing that would mess them up is if Texas Tech beats BYU next weekend or this weekend.
And that game's in Lubbock.
And there'll be a 3-way tie for if, assuming they all win out.
Well, if Cincinnati wins out, they'll still only have one conference loss. Houston has 2 now.
No, Houston lost to Nebraska to start. Houston.
No. Cincinnati lost to Nebraska.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Out of it. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tripping.
Yep. They blew it. But all that to say, it's interesting, Terrence. There's a very real scenario here where Baylor gets their
I don't want to hear that, bro. Oh, I thought you were about to say Baylor's going to sneak into the Big 12 championship. I don't want to hear that.
No. That's gone. No, that's gone. There's a real scenario, though, where Baylor gets their butts kicked in 2 weeks by Utah and then finds a way to win one or both of that Arizona and Houston game now, because Houston looks very, vulnerable. And then we're 6-6 or 7-5. And I think that's the nightmare scenario, Terrence, because what if we go 7-5 and keep this head coach? And I'm not trying to crap on the team right after a big win, but golly, man, I was telling buddies in August before the first game against Auburn, the worst case scenario for this year would be to go 6-6, make a bowl, and keep the coach. And that was just all feelings aside before the season. I was like, that I would rather just suck or I'd rather be really good. I can't stand being mediocre, bro.
So this is what I would tell you, man. If Aranda finishes 5-6, I think he's gone. If he finishes 6-6, I think he starts the season next year. I don't think if he doesn't start well next year, and this is my purely speculation on Terrence Ganaway, I don't think Mac Rose can keep a 6-6 coach year 7, 2026 on staff. I think people are going to be, especially if attendance is still down, people are going to be calling for both of their jobs. And I think you have to make a decision. Now, from a hiring cycle perspective, it may not be the worst thing to have a consistent head coach like Aranda to come back and coach this team for another year, because with how many jobs that are open, and we just got to November, there's going to be a few more jobs happening. How many jobs that are open? DJ Kenny, who may be making, I don't know, $1 million. I don't know how much money he's making at Texas State. But a guy like him gets catapulted in a tier in the class from a recruiting standpoint, a search firm standpoint, that he is going to be looking at multiple schools. And he can say, Oklahoma State offered me 3.5. And then Baylor's like, well, we got to offer him 4. So what we're going to do, I think what teams are going to do, or institution athletic department is going to do in this cycle, is they're going to overpay for a coach that isn't proven. And that's what I don't want to do. I really don't want to do that. Now, there's some good coaches out there, and how do you know if a coach is really proven or if they're not worth it? You won't know that until year 3, I would assume. But I think with how fast you can build rosters and how fast you can go in and establish a culture, you probably got 2 full seasons to figure that out. But to answer your question about 6-6 Aranda, yes, he stays. 5-6 Aranda, I think it's expected that we're going to lose against Utah. I think AD expects it. I think Baylor expects it. Now, the football team is going to play and practice like they're going to win the game, which is what they do. On paper, I don't think it's going to be a game that we can win. And then if you go win those last 2, finish 7-5, be a winning team in Houston and Arizona, I think that makes a case for, hey, like we got it together. We won 3 out of our last 4, and maybe you can finagle that into a conversation. Don't give them a raise, don't extend it, but we got to level set expectations into 2026.
Man, that is all not fun to hear. I'm laughing at some of these comments coming in. Jeremy S410. It looks a little bit like Jeremy Sohan in the profile picture. So if Jeremy Sohan's watching, shout out, bro. I doubt it. But like, hey, respect. Love you if it is. Love you if it is. But our opposition is tweeting hashtag extend Aranda. I hope our athletic department is seeing that. That is really funny. I would love to see some of those tweets if we have some links, by the way.
So,
man, I just can't.
So next year, we start out very similar to what we did this year. We go to Auburn, we go to Georgia, and then we host SMU. I think if you drop 0-2, and I'm sure whoever we got after that game is okay. But I think if you drop 0-2 next year, then it's a very real chance that Mac Rose would have to make a move middle of the season, especially if we get to 6 losses before halfway.
Yeah, I just don't know why, Terrence, if that's I guess I hear what you're saying about the carousel, and we know there's a lot more jobs that are going to open up. Kentucky's going to open up. Dude, at this point, I'm wondering if Clemson's going to open up. South Carolina might open up. There's going to be a lot of jobs. So I hear what you're saying, but I guess I wonder if that's unacceptable next season. Why is it acceptable this season?
So what is unacceptable? Are you talking about the coaches? Like how many openings there will be and us fighting for coaches? Or going 6-6 would be acceptable this year and it won't be next year. I just think the climate, man. I mean, if you're AD, if I'm the AD, I probably double down on Aranda unless I get my guy. But I would have to know there's conversations happening behind the scenes, and I have a search firm looking for a guy, interviewing a guy, talking to a guy. But if I'm Baylor and Aranda gets the 6 wins, I keep him for 4 games next year, and it's known. I mean, it's not like we got to start out. SMU is going to be who they are. They got a really good coach, but Auburn's going to have a new coach next year, whether that game is in freaking his backyard or not. We need to go out there and we need to show that we are a much more developed team. But you got to think about it. Who are we going to lose? Sawyer's not like he's gone. Bryson, he's not having the year he wanted to have. Does he jump into the portal? Do we keep Spavital? Because some of these openings, I don't know, man. Would he take a smaller job? Spavital probably would be great at Oklahoma State. That offense, that his personality, I think he'll be good. It'll be hard to follow after Gundy, but there are so many different things. If we could keep the core. If we could keep our coaching staff together for another year, I think it plays in its favor short term. The long term implications is we really don't know until it happens, because Baylor could go 10-2 next year, and then we're licking each other's butts. But right now,
here's a thought. And I am just like developing this in real time. Like the cogs in my head are turning on this right now. In the new kind of landscape of college football, where roster construction is more fluid and maybe more important than ever, portal, NIL, recruiting, all of it. Is there any scenario here where Baylor goes 6-6, makes some podunk, crappy bowl game, and 3 of these 4 stars decommit, and 3 of our stars announce they're transferring out. And so then you fire Dave after the bowl game.
I think I'm sure it has happened. A coach has been fired after a bowl game.
I don't know that it has, but I'm just wondering with the way. I just don't know, man.
I don't think recruiting can affect, and in bowl games, like the way they're looked at, I just don't know if anyone's firing a head coach for a bad bowl game. It sounds like it's 100% should be the case, but bowl games, unless you're in the playoffs, I don't even think they really matter, man. Like, you just go get a bunch of swag, you hang out. Football's practice is a little weird. Like there's nothing. I don't know. If you don't fire Aranda during the 12 game season, then I don't think you can fire him without cause during the offseason. You know, if he's not fired by end of November, then he's going to be our coach in August.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's any chance that a coach is fired after a bowl game.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's also, Terrence. I've said this, I think, on some of our other shows here at Rogue Media this week, but I don't know that I've said it on this show. I've seen a lot of vitriol aimed at Mack Rhoades this week. And even in the comments tonight, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it come in on the live chat. A lot of shade being thrown at Mack. And I want to say, first of all, I get it. I get it. Despite what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mack Rhoades, to this point, has been a very good AD. The Matt Rule hire ended up being very good for Baylor. We want to criticize him for Kim Mulkey leaving, even though I think that was inevitable after the men won a national championship, no matter who was the AD. But we don't give him enough credit for keeping Scott Drew in Waco, despite him being the preferred candidate for Kentucky. I think he went against his instincts in hiring Mitch Thompson to lead the baseball program, and I think that was the right hire. I just think he's done a lot of things right. But it is going to be weird, Terrence. I have to admit, having said that, seeing him on TV Tuesday night on ESPN as the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, and knowing that this was a Baylor football team that we were hoping would be part of that conversation, and they have fallen so far from it. And what I've said about Mack is I think I can rationalize and somewhat defend his decisions to this point. Ryan Pryor said, Mack Rhoades is weird, though. I'm going to not say anything about him as a dude. I'm going to talk about him as an AD at Baylor. I think I can rationalize and mostly defend most of his decisions to this point. I think if Baylor goes 5-7, 6-6, and Dave Aranda's still leading this program, that becomes very difficult for me. Very difficult for me personally.
It is the landscape of college football is much different, man. It's one where I don't know where we are from a financial standpoint, fire and pay buyouts. It's not only buyouts for the head coach, but paying some of the other staff members as well, and then bringing in another staff member. I mean, you're thinking about $30, $40, $50 million swings for a school like Baylor. Like, you gotta get it right. And so I don't think Mack Rhoades is looking at this from a mediocrity standpoint or thinking that we have to wait and see if it's going to work out. I think he's frustrated as well, but also understands that like we're not going to be playing the same game as all these other schools. LSU, we're not going to play that game. Penn State, A&M, where they can pay out these buys and then go get whoever they want. We're not going to be playing those games. And that's the frustrating part about it, because I'm a recent Baylor fan. I know you grew up a Baylor fan. I didn't start rooting for Baylor until 2008 when I was committed to Baylor. And then I've only been a fan for less than 20 years. And so for Baylor is near and dear to me, but I saw a lot of good in Baylor. I mean, 3 Big 12 championships in 10 years and less than 10 years in the same decade almost. And like I've seen good happen here. I've seen us go to Austin and beat Austin. Beat Texas. And I've seen us go and knock off the number 1 team in the country. I've seen us go toe-to-toe to TCU when at their height. And when you go watch us play, Cincinnati's had a good team the last couple of years. I know they got a different coach than when they went to the playoffs. But when you see some of this, it's very hard to stomach a 6-16, a 5-16. But the reality is Baylor is not going to play the same game as some of these other large institutions with a lot of money. And I'm not saying Aranda gets a pass, but it's definitely one of the reasons why he's still here.
All right, Terrence, I want to tell everybody really quick, by the way, lots of people watching live. Thank you. Subscribe on YouTube. I know we're live on X as well. It helps us if you subscribe on YouTube. I want to tell everybody real quick, Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath right here. Those are my friends, Kelly and Corbett. If you need renovations at your house, their whole thing is like, why live in a house that you don't like? Why live in a house that doesn't feel like home? They specialize in baths, kitchens, as you can assume by the name, Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, but also these outdoor pergola, outdoor spaces, outdoor living areas, outdoor kitchen. Listen, the weather's getting good finally here in Central Texas. It's starting to feel really nice outside. If you want a space where your family can celebrate, if you want kind of a hybrid indoor-outdoor space, huge like accordion doors, open up your kitchen into the outdoors, open up your living room into a patio, that kind of deal. Man, these are your people. Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, my friends. Let them know Scotty and Terrence sent you. It will help us out. They're great. Anywhere in Central Texas, they're the best for your job. I'm telling you. I do not yet have the financial capability to do this, but one day your boy is going to have an outdoor kitchen and an outdoor space to watch football. That is one of my dreams. And I will probably call Gather & Co. and let them do it for me, because they are great folks, great people. They do the job right. It's not overpriced. A lot of integrity with those guys. So, yeah, Gather & Co. Give them a call. Terrence, I want to change the subject just a bit. And I did not prepare you for this. So if you need a second, or if I'm doing wrong by you to throw a question at you you're not prepared for, that's on me. But I got to go here in a little bit. I'm going to go get my little girl tonight. Clyde Hart passed away yesterday. And I was not an athlete at Baylor. I did have the opportunity to run cross country at Baylor, and I declined. But even growing up in Waco, growing up running track, growing up idolizing, I was a little too young when Michael Johnson was setting world records, but Jeremy Warner in 2004, I remember like it was yesterday, man. And I said this on X. We overuse the word legend in our culture. Like somebody does something great and we're like legendary. That's not. I think we probably overuse that word. But Coach Clyde Hart is a legend. And I think set a standard at Baylor before any other sport really did. Grant Taff as well, but Clyde Hart to another level. Did you interact with Coach Hart? Did you know him? I know you know people that probably ran for him, knew him. But do you have any thoughts or reflections on Coach Hart and what he means for Baylor?
No, he was still around the program when I was there. I know he still did some things in a limited capacity. But when I think the head coach that was at Baylor, Todd Harbor, was a good friend. We were trying to recruit a guy out of Texarkana, a really good athlete, and just that whole program embodied what Clyde Hart meant. This kid he didn't have the right grades, and it was something that, we would have to fight for to get him on campus at Baylor, at an institution like ours. But Coach Harbor was willing to do that. And then when I hear some of the stories about how Clyde Hart fought for minority athletes, how he fought for women and equality, well, long before it was ever a popular thing to do, it just made it more impactful to me to have friends that run track, to talk to people that run track and that was impacted by his generosity and his love, not only for developing some of the finest people in the world. I don't think anyone will ever be able to do what Michael Johnson did. Is winning the 400, winning the 200. It's just two different races, but developing the tactics, the discipline to go out there and become quarter mile you. But it's things that most people that are close to the program, and I wasn't as close as some of those that may be listening, but it's the things that happen off the field.
Yeah.
That are so impactful, and why it makes, yesterday's announcement, if you will, such a tough thing to swallow. He was old. I know he's been on hospice for a bit, but prayers goes out to his family, his friends, and then everyone he's impacted. So a great leader. I'm sure if I live long enough to see some of the people that have been instrumental to me, forget about accolades that are on the field, off the field, or whatever they did in the profession. It's how they impacted my life. And I think I was a benefactor of the generosity that Clyde Hart established. And now Coach Ford is running at a high level. So prayers out to him and his family.
91 years old. Coached 34 national champions, 566 All-American performances, 9 Olympians who won a total of 13 golds, 1 silver, and 3 bronze. Just remarkable, man. And I think what you just said is potent and pertinent and good, because, I mentioned Scott Drew in kind of this category, but Clyde Hart even more so, to an even greater level. Baylor loves Coach Aranda because of who he is off the field. And I resonate with that. And I also love Coach Aranda for who he is off the field. But what Clyde Hart and Scott Drew and others have proven throughout sports, but at Baylor, and Clyde Hart better than anybody, man. Better than anybody.
Yeah.
You can be that kind of person that makes a difference, that loves people, that does what's right, makes an impact off the field, and be one of the best coaches in your sport. And in his case, he was the best coach, if not in that sport, which he probably was, certainly in that event, the quarter mile, for half a century. There was no one better than Clyde Hart. Really, really remarkable life, well lived. I thought we needed to mention that. By the way, I saw Chris Platt, who I know has been on this show, watches this show. Good friend of mine, Chris, tweeted yesterday, best coach I've ever had. And obviously he played for Coach Briles and Coach Rule at Baylor. And that's how I think most people feel about Coach Hart. So good stuff. Bye week, Terrence.
Rest and recover, man. Get everybody healthy. And we'll get through it. So I think if we just refresh and come out focused, pick up on some tendencies that I mean, we're not new to playing Utah. They got a lot of game film to watch this year, and they're going to come off. They're going to explode, and they're going to be ready to play some really good football here in Waco. And we just got to hit them in the mouth. I think if we start like we started yesterday, I think it's a different ball game. At least we could keep it close. And, you know, if it's close to Baylor, who knows? If we're down 14 in the fourth quarter, that's right where we want to. But rest, recover. The celebration of homecoming and all this stuff is behind us now. We got to prepare for, you know, game week, have a crisp practice this week, and then focus down on what we need to do to beat Utah.
I noticed, Terrence, and this will be the last thing maybe to discuss going into the bye week before we say goodbye. Coach Dillingham did his press conference yesterday and said he's given his team the entire week off this week. They get the whole week off for their bye week, which is just different than what I've heard a lot of people do. And they lost Sam Levitt for the year, and they've got others that are hurt and they're struggling. But tell me, in your experience, what makes for a productive bye week? Obviously, rest and recover, you said, but I'm assuming Baylor's not taking the whole week off of practice.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. I don't know about the whole week, but in NFL, whenever you have a bye week, I mean, you got 1-2 practices that are like light, crisp. You're running around. You just staying healthy. You don't need. It's in the middle of the season. I mean, we're in week 10. We don't need anyone to get hurt in the bye week of practice. But I don't mind that. But what makes a good, bye week is, guys being able to catch up on studies, catch up on midterms, catch up, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and, papers and all this stuff is due. And so what you want to do is make sure you prioritize everything that you don't typically have time for when you're in the thick of a game week season or a game week plan. And enjoy the downtime, enjoy building relationships with people, and go home and visit family. Go to a high school game that playoffs are about to start here in a couple of weeks. So go check in with your high school. Go visit someone else's high school if you're from out of state. But just be a college student. So having the week off, the expectation, and I kind of like this, and I don't know if Dillingham is doing it because tourism is no longer there, and you're treating guys like pros. But if someone has an injury, like if Bryson is nursing something that's nagging him, then the expectation is, hey, you still get treatment. It's mandatory that you still do whatever you need to do because now you're a professional. If you don't, like, hey, you come back and we'll get someone else to do it. But I kind of like that idea of maybe cutting out on Wednesday night, giving them a Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and then back in the building on Sunday to watch film and start the regular game week.
There
Staying
we go.
Healthy is a priority, though.
Absolutely. Well, and you're right. It's been hard to watch Bryson struggle with whatever's nagging him, and it sucks. Yeah, man. All right, Terrence. Anything else off the homecoming win and looking ahead?
Man, let's enjoy it, fans. Scotty, let you and I be as positive as possible. I think Utah's going to happen like it's going to happen. So let's not get all butthurt about that. But let's see what this team does and how they respond. I know, there's some comments about unacceptable, and we gotta do it because other mid-major, and I know Baylor's not a mid-major, but other mid-tier Power 4 teams are dominating in a huge fashion. You got to do right with the culture. You can't change the culture during the season. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. It has to be something that's instilled January 1 or whenever, the new season starts, according to the head coach and the program. But let's see what happens. If Aranda wins the next 3 games, 8-4 guys, sorry, he's not getting fired. He's not going anywhere. He may get an extension. But I know one thing, he can't drop the next 3 because I think that would be the proverbial nail in the coffin.
Good word. By the way, Sick and Bears 777. Always a great pod. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. We love doing it. Love the Baylor Bears. Been a rough year, man. And I just got to say, been a rough year. Feels good to win, bro. Yesterday was fun. I told Terrence I did most of yesterday's game on the radio. I had my daughter and couldn't make it to the game, but it's so much more fun to listen to a win, see the highlights of a win. You know, I think no matter how we feel about this coach, all of us root for these athletes, and it was good to see them thrive yesterday. I enjoyed it a lot. So, Terrence Ganaway, you're the man. Just saw this comment. I said this at the top of the show, but most of you weren't watching. Yes, Baylor basketball starts tomorrow, baby. I'm excited. I like this roster. I always believe in Scott Drew teams until I'm proven wrong. So it'll be fun to see Baylor hoops on both the men's and the women's side. Women are in Paris to play number 7 Duke to open the season. Awesome. Tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow at like 2 o'clock, maybe something like that. So yeah, Baylor hoops getting going. Appreciate everybody for watching, commenting. Please subscribe on YouTube. The subscriptions on YouTube help us a lot more than the views on X if you want to support us. If you want to support us, like I said, Gather and Co. Kitchen and Bath. Tell them we sent them your way. Sent you their way is what I meant to say there. Man, Terrence, love you, bro. Thanks for doing it, man. For Terrence Ganaway, my name's Scotty Swingler. This is Rogue Media. This is Please Bear With Me. We will I will do something next week. We won't have a lot to talk about next week, but either Terrence or I or both of us will be on here next week to get ready for Utah. We'll be back at 5 o'clock Sunday night. Appreciate it. See you later.